What, Why, and How Can I podcast. Today we have a very interesting guest, Max Gaverlick. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be here.
Yes, thank you for making time. We are in, honestly, it's like a very, very cool man cave. If you've ever wanted airplanes and a bunch of other sweet stuff in your man cave, this is the place. Obviously, not all of us have a garage this big, but this is a special place to Max. I know he spent a lot of time here.
Yeah, many years.
Many years learning how to
fly aerobatics, tail aircraft, World War II airplanes, all kinds of training. I worked on him, flew him, still do. So it's great to be here.
Okay, yeah. So it is great to be in a place where Max developed a lot of his skills. And today we're going to talk about kind of what he does now, where all those skills took you, your schedule, all that type of stuff. And then also why you chose this field and then how you came up through the ranks, all your different type of experience that you've gained.
Sure.
I mean, you still are a young man, but you have gained a lot of experience.
I look younger than I actually am.
Okay, well, well, that's a good thing, I guess, a compliment.
Yeah.
So I know we had actually a lot of viewers very interested in aviation, in the aviation field, asking a lot of questions. So after the interview, we'll make another segment answering your guys' specific questions that you guys had in the previous videos. But Max, what is it? What do you do? Let's learn a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm essentially a aviation enthusiast in all fields of aviation. First and foremost, I guess, aircraft mechanic and a pilot now. Been flying since I was 16. That's over 10 years, 28 here shortly. Been an aircraft mechanic since I was 18 years old. Started working on airplanes as a mechanic without airframe power plant license since probably 17. Started working at local airport here in Sacramento when I was basically 16, even before I finished high school.
Oh, wow.
And so always knew I wanted to be something with aviation, airplanes. I mean, and it's very interesting how I came about that when our family immigrated from the Soviet Union into the States in 2000, flying across.
So you guys flew?
Yeah, we certainly flew. It wasn't a boat. So it was the year 2000, and I was 7 years old. And I think coming off that airport in New York, I think that's when I realized I don't want to do anything else. That's the only thing I want to do in life is be around airplanes because they're the coolest thing ever.
Wow, that's
so
pretty sweet.
It's a lifelong pursuit. We're here now. So
I mean, not everyone is lucky enough to be bit by that bug per se.
Yeah.
Like where from a young age, this is exactly what I want to do, and you kind of dedicate the rest of your life into gaining all that knowledge and experience. So you mentioned you were an aircraft mechanic. Now you are a pilot.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, if I can say, your piloting.
Yeah. So some of you might not know, like the flight training to go from private pilot to ATP, it gets very expensive.
Okay, no idea what ATP is.
ATP is the highest certification you have as a pilot, airline transport pilot.
Okay.
Some people say airline transport professional, but and so basically from zero to hero, you could say it's roughly 80 to 100,000 nowadays to go through all your flight training. So dollars, yeah.
Okay.
The reason I started, I guess, so I got my private when I was like 17, 18, but I started flying when I was 16. I knew I couldn't afford it just to pay out of pocket. So I knew I needed to start a different career to pay for my flying and all my flight training. I didn't want to do a loan or, be in debt for a couple of years after I graduate. So I went to a local community college for 2 years to get my, through a A&P program, airframe and power plant program. It was 2 years. That gave me the ability to start a essentially mechanic life and working on airplanes. I got to know from the inside many pilots, and so that was kind of like a great benefit. I got to learn how airplanes are essentially built and the people that fly them in, the people that buy them, the people that manage them. And so I got this whole insight even before I started flying. And so when I had my career going as a mechanic, I worked for a mechanic for 8 years.
Would you recommend a pilot to be a mechanic first? Is it not necessary? Obviously, it's not necessary.
Yeah,
but
it's
what
certainly
are
not.
the benefits?
The benefits is you learn essentially the airplane from inside out. I mean, as a pilot, you learn a lot of the systems, a lot of the, I guess, the way things are done, built, especially once you go and fly professionally airlines.
Mm-hmm.
You go through, it's called like a type school. You know, those schools can be weeks and you're just learning systems. But as a mechanic,
So, systems inside the cockpit,
inside the airplane,
the entire airplane.
Yeah. So
Okay.
say pressurization system that pressurizes the whole airplane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could spend a couple of days just going through each component, the routing, the way it operates, emergency procedures, just for that system. So,
Mm-hmm.
like as a mechanic, you know, I troubleshot, replaced many parts, and did all kinds of stuff. And so after many years, I got this experience when I got into the cockpit flying.
Mm-hmm.
Like even the airplanes I fly now, turboprops or jets, I used to work on them when I was a mechanic
Mm-hmm.
for this company. And now that I fly them, I know something came up on the, it's called a cost system,
Mm-hmm.
caution and warning system. And it tells me a fault. And I know what could possibly be wrong with that
Okay.
indication. So, and, you know, so I certainly think it's a huge benefit, you know, like if I know I can make it to the destination with this caution or warning indication, I'm not going to declare an emergency or essentially turn around and go back.
So when you said default and all that, I'm like going through my mind are all these movies where they have airplane scenes where one engine shuts off
Sure.
and everyone's flying and then the pilot does something last second, and like even Madagascar, right? The penguin saving saving the airplane. Have you had any moments like that?
Thank God. I mean, no, like I would say like super catastrophic. I don't even know. I can't even say
Yeah.
that word. But anyway,
It's a scary word.
Yeah. Like the worst thing I've experienced was actually in-flight training when I was getting my multi-engine rating, commercial multi-engine rating. It was this old Beechcraft Travel Air. So like, I think it was made in like 1965, like old school, had a bunch of hours, poorly maintained. It was the flight school shut down now. But anyway, I took off from Sacramento Executive Airport for not Sacramento National. I think we were going to Vacaville. Yeah, exactly. Vacaville. There's a small airport similar to this. And previously to that day, the airplane was being worked on for some fuel issues on the right engine. So I landed, refueled with my instructor. I'm sitting in the left seat. He's sitting in the right seat. And so we refueled, ready to head back out, doing some more training. I started the right engine. Right engine started. And then, you know, I'm looking down at the gauges for the right engine, ready to start as we're going through the checklist to start the left engine. Like I see smoke from the right engine. It got fired because one of the fuel pump lines was loose after that flight. I guess it loosened up enough to, when I primered it, it squirted fuel all around the engine compartment behind where the accessory is for the engine. And so it caught fire. As I'm looking down, you know, I don't see it. And so now the whole like right side of the wing is on flames. And and we both me and instructor look at each other. It's like, what's going on?
Like, okay, we're on the ground. Okay,
yeah.
good.
So at least we're on the ground. So I shut everything off. You know, killed the engine, grabbed some of the stuff. There's only one door on this airplane from where the co-pilot sits. So he hops out, I hop out. By the time like we called the fire department, it was probably like, you know, 3 to 5 minutes by the time they came up. Like half the airplane was already burnt. So, and you know, I after that, like obviously I drove home, I didn't fly. So I took a break probably for about a month, trying to like figure out like,
is this what
the risk factor in like all this. And like, I mean, I was pretty young. So I mean, I still wanted to fly, but I just want to realize like, is this what really, is this like safe for my future, you know, for family and stuff? I mean, it gives you like time to reflect back on what could have happened if I was in the air. What if I primered it? Because a lot of times when you're doing multi-engine training, you shut off an engine in flight, and so you're flying only on one engine essentially, because that's just a training for if it were to happen in real life with passengers on board. And so if I were to shut down that engine in flight and did the same thing, well, that airplane would have caught fire
But
in the air.
in movies, the air usually puts out the fire.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, because where that fire started inside, the air is out. I mean,
it's blocked.
Yeah, it's blocked. So it'd be burning. And so like in that airplane, the fuel tank is right behind in the wing behind the engine. So it started melting like once they put it out, and we inspected it like a couple days later or whenever it was like this, it was going through the spar into the fuel tanks. And so if it would have actually went through the wing spar, it would have blown up even on the ground. It just, the firefighters got to it. So I'm pretty certain, depending on where it would be in the air, I probably wouldn't be here. It's, but
so you can fly with one engine, but you can't fly with one wing.
Obviously. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's some videos that I don't know how true they are, but people have done it, not by, I guess, choice.
By the mercy of God.
Yeah, by the mercy of God, indeed.
That's crazy. Okay, so Max LLC, Max Air LLC.
Yeah.
You fly now. What does Max Air offer?
I started this company roughly three and a half years ago now, after being a mechanic and a pilot for many years, specifically on turboprop aircraft. I got to know that a lot of these airplanes are operated by owner-operators. So like whether companies or families or, they want to get into an airplane, but they don't know how. And so I developed this essentially consulting firm that turned into a management firm. And so if you want to buy an airplane, don't know how, and don't want to do anything but fly it, so you come to us, we figure out what airplane works for you. What is it going to cost per hour, per year? Basically purchase price. We do all the proper inspections, all the pre-purchase inspections, insurance, financing. And then we set up a team with pilots, mechanics, everything that will take care essentially of your airplane for you. So you don't have to, because a lot of, wealthy individuals whether companies, they don't have time. If they say, like, for example, some of my companies or rather clients, whether it's a law firm or just a company, they don't want to focus on an airplane. They just want to go from A to B. They don't want to do anything else in between.
This is not a hobby for them.
Yeah, and so, essentially this company kind of grew up on its own. From majority of it was word of mouth, because I knew a lot of clients when I was working on them and on the airplanes. And then, I started flying, and a lot of them wanted me to fly for them because they knew I used to work on them. I did many inspections in and out on the airplanes, and it came about to be when I started flying professionally, they would call me and ask me to do this and that. And so kind of turned into what now I have essentially 6-7 airplanes that we manage and we fly, and, we're growing. And so it's
nice.
Business is good.
So where are you based out of? Sacramento? Or
no. So I guess the headquarters or the office is in Petaluma, California. Majority of our airplanes are scattered across the Bay Area, between Napa County, Petaluma, Nosfield, Oakland, and Hayward and Concord. So majority of these airplanes are Pilatuses and some jets.
So you're not a regular pilot.
No, I don't think so.
No, because
not in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. So I was gonna say, what is kind of your pilot schedule like? But I guess there's gonna be two totally separate schedules here, where a schedule where you're flying as a pilot, and then obviously a business manager.
So I could tell you, actually, I worked for a charter company for 2 years out of the Bay Area, and strictly as a pilot.
Okay.
And my schedule was probably 3 to 4 days a week. Most of my trips were not overnight; they were there and back. So if I went to Montana, I'm back the same day, and they would probably start off from 6 in the morning and end like 7, 8, pretty late. Long days. Not hard days, but they're long. There's also essentially time limits where a pilot times out if they're flying for a 135 certificate or a 121. 121 certificates airlines, and so all the airline pilots have duty times, and so charter companies essentially have duty times
Okay,
too.
explain to me these certificates, 125, 135. What's the difference?
So the difference is essentially a 121 certificated company is an airline company. It's essentially a scheduled with so many passengers. And so it's very rigorous, the safety, the inspections that the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, does to these companies for them to even achieve a certificate like this. I mean, it takes years to get a 121. I mean, even a 135. So a 135,
I'm guessing that's what Elon Musk got, and that's what he can transport people to the space station, to the moon now.
Yeah, so he probably has, if I were to guess, he probably have a 135 certificate.
Okay.
A 135 is a scheduled, non-scheduled charter certificate. And it also depends what airplanes you use and how many passengers you could take.
Okay.
There's just different, I guess, leeways you can go. But there's also how we operate as a company. We operate under, majority of our stuff is, actually all of our stuff is under Part 91. And so we can't advertise, to you, a client, for you to rent my client's airplane without the certificate. Without the 135 certificate, if that makes sense.
No.
Okay, so let's say you're a guy off the street who wants to charter an airplane. I can't do that to you, even though I own this airplane and I could fly it and I could do all this stuff. I can't legally
tell you that I'll give you a ride.
Yeah. I mean, I probably could, but I'd have to charge you nothing and it'd be free. And even
you have to go through a third party.
You have to go through a charter company. So and they need to have, that charter company needs to have the certificate called a 135.
Okay, so I guess that's how they kind of enforce all the safety protocols.
Exactly.
And all that.
So although we operate to all the 135, I guess, regulations with pilots and maintenance, so all of our airplanes, get a 100-hour inspection or 300 hours plus all the stuff that the factory or manufacturer recommends. We do. So, but we're not in the business. We're not in the charter business. So there's no real necessary for us to have the certificate.
Okay, gotcha. You're just in managing people's airplanes business.
Exactly.
Not booking flights.
No, we don't really sell flights. It's just the family, the friends, the company, whoever essentially is part of this airplane.
Okay. So back to the pilot schedule. Monday to Friday, I think you said 6 a.m. to 7 p.m.-ish. Is this, week in, week out, Monday to Friday, you're home on the weekends? Or
so it depends, I think, on your charter company or what company you work for. But the company I worked for, these people that could afford this, they go on ski trips just for 1 day or 2 days, and majority of it's the weekend. So our company would do a lot of Bay Area to Truckee or Bay Area to Sun Valley, Idaho for just Saturday to go skiing, or just Mammoth, California, Mount Shasta, just so you fly out
nice.
Saturday morning, or Friday night, and then you come and then you drop them off. A lot of times we'd drop them off and reposition back to base, but then you pick them up on Sunday evening or Monday morning.
Okay, gotcha.
And so in the winter, winter's coming up now, you could, essentially Truckee is on Friday evenings, there's just an airplane after an airplane landing with these rich folks that go in there to go ski. And all the Silicon Valley executives have houses in Truckee. This camp called Martis Camp. I'm giving out all the secrets, but it's literally, if you have access to there, I don't think, you're not going to find a house under $3 million, but you'll recognize majority of celebrities from California or people with lots and lots of money.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So as a pilot, I'm guessing you got to meet some of these folk, or don't really interact with them?
Not certainly on personal level. Some people like to interact, some clients, but a lot of times just a safety briefing. You greet them, they load up, you shut the door, and you're out.
Okay.
And so you almost never talk to them. But I guess regular clients, you get to know some people. And
okay, who's the most? If you can share this, Who did you fly that you were most excited about?
So I don't think there has been an individual like that.
Yeah.
I've flown very wealthy billionaires and millionaires.
Yeah.
But
not someone that you were this crazy.
No.
Okay.
I guess the only person that I was kind of, I guess, excited to me was the CEO of HP.
Okay.
He bought a Pilatus, I want to say 3 years ago or so, and I was going to help him out with it, but he ended up buying a different air. But anyway, so that's probably the only person that I
was excited about.
Yeah, exactly. So.
That's cool. So as a mechanic, your schedule is a little different, and if you guys want to kind of go into the details of a mechanic, obviously Eddie's episode, I forget what number it was, in the 40s. We'll double check. We'll let you know, but you guys, we'll put actually a link at the top of the screen or below the screen. You guys could find that for details into mechanics of an airplane. We go into there, but just very shortly, like as a summary, kind of your mechanic
background.
Yeah, your mechanic's background. What airplanes did you like working on?
Sure.
What about the airplanes you liked? I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure there's, when we were talking with Eddie, I didn't understand it, but they were pulling out all the seats and all this crazy stuff.
So, you know, after I graduated from this program and got my essentially my certifications, my airframe and power plant, I started working on piston aircraft. Piston aircraft are similar to this that have actually like piston engines. Okay. So I did that for about 2 years. The company I worked for had, you know, everything from Cessna 172s to like Cessna 421s, Beechcraft Barons. So my piston experience is not, I guess, great.
Only 2 years.
Yeah, only 2 years, but I mean, it was plenty to kind of get the idea that I don't want to be working on piston aircraft. So I liked radios, and I still work on radios. That's just because it's nostalgic, and I just kind of enjoy the airplane.
Radio, you mean?
Radial engines.
Oh,
so
radial.
Like a piston engine it's round. That's essentially called a radial engine.
Oh, like the old school engines.
And you can see the reason this cowling is kind of round is because it has 7 cylinders in a circle all the way around. Gotcha. Not like a car or nowadays a horizontally opposed, what they're called.
Okay.
So after about 2 years of working on piston aircraft, you know, variety of piston aircraft, I essentially got transferred to working on turboprop aircraft. Everything from Piaggio Avante, that's the Italy aircraft, super fast, turboprop. It's almost jet speed fast. Then Pilatus PC-12 was my favorite airplane. Then King Airs ranging from 90 series to 350 series. I went to several different factory training. I went through Pratt & Whitney hot inspection. Pratt & Whitney just, I think, 100-hour or 150-hour inspection course. And I went through Pilatus PC-12 factory school. I went through Beechcraft 350 factory training and Piaggio Avante 1 and 2 training. So I spent some times in different factories and different training across the country. And so majority of my experience is with turboprops. I did work on some for the last, I think, year of my career. I wanted to work on jets, and so they put me on some Lear jets, Lear 35s, 30s, and Hawker 800s. Did a little bit of Falcon 2000 work, but majority, I'd say, of my mechanic experience is relevant to turboprops. So a turboprop is essentially a jet engine with a propeller. So
very similar to a regular jet engine, but
it functions. It works just the same, and instead of a fan in the cowling, it's a prop. It turns a prop.
So the jet turns a prop. Instead of the pulling the air inside, it's the prop is pushing the air.
Yeah, exactly.
If I understand that.
Yeah, that's correct. So the reason why in a jet engine you can't tell the difference between a fan and a jet is just because it's all in this cowling, and so like technically there's like a jet engine in the front, there's a fan. Majority, that's how the fan engines or jet fan engines work, and so it essentially is like a propeller that's inside this cowling. So if that makes sense.
Yes, that does make sense. So talking to multiple people that worked around airplanes or on airplanes, the PC-12 always comes up as the favorite or most popular or favored. Why is that?
So it's the Pilatus, first of all, the way this Pilatus is built in Switzerland, the way Swiss builds things, not only airplanes, but
the knives,
the knives,
Swiss knife.
yeah. So like this airplane can do almost everything that no other airplane can do, and it's probably my favorite airplane. It could land on grass. It could take off on super short runways. You could fly with essentially 12 people. There's a bathroom. You can go across the country with. You can put your dirt bikes in there, and if you don't want to hire a pilot, you could do some training and go in as an owner operator and fly the airplane yourself. So keeping the cost down. I mean, you go into the flight levels, you're operating at very high speeds like a lot of the jets, but for literally a fraction of the cost. I mean, to fly, so one of the airplanes, let's say, it's not even comparable, like a Falcon 50 is probably, if you're chartered at $7,000 an hour, say from San Francisco to Burbank.
Hold up. 7,000, if you were to charter, like have somebody fly it?
Exactly. So like if you were to just say I want to go from San Francisco to Burbank, it's about an hour, and in a Falcon it's about an hour and 5 minutes. I'll be just 1 hour, but you got to come back, or the airplane has to come back. So you're paying for 2 hours. It's $14,000. In comparison to a Pilatus, you're paying about, for all like the fixed cost plus fuel, about $1,200 to $1,500 an hour. So it's not even like comparable. Of course, there's other jets like small citations, CJ2s, 3s, 4s. I mean, they're probably $3,000 to $4,000 an hour. It's not even comparable to what a Pilatus can do.
So the Swiss have it dialed in.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and yeah, it's slower. It's a turboprop. It's a little louder. And the difference in speed from when you take, it's going to take you an hour and 20 minutes versus an hour and 5 minutes. So unless your time, every second is worth millions, like there's clients that, I
mean, Jeff Bezos, I think, if I'm not mistaken, makes $6,500 a second.
Yeah. So like if you're that guy, buy a Gulfstream 650ER. So, which he has 2 of them. I've seen him many times across the country. So
have you ever flown for him or worked on his stuff?
No, I have not. His flight department is based in Seattle.
Okay. Oh, dude, the guy has his own space program. I'm sure, like
this guy.
Okay, never mind.
He doesn't even want to look at me. It's all right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about your mechanics. Why? I know we mentioned a little bit, but why did you decide to be in aviation? Kind of like, there was a time where the plane burned down and you had to reevaluate like your life almost. Sure. Like, is this worth it?
Yeah. I kind of like growing up and didn't really even think about anything else. I didn't pursue anything else. There came a time in my life when I actually my mom was like, maybe you should think about doing something else. And I was into my aviation career for probably 5-6 years, and she didn't like my schedule. And she was like, maybe you should think about doing something else. I just told her, I don't know how to do anything else. So it didn't make any sense. I mean, like even looking back, just that aviation bug was in me. Like, when you're 5, you're looking up for airplanes. I'm 27. I look for airplanes. I guess aviation people are weird, but
No, I mean, you gotta love. It's cool that you can do something that you love, and that could be your job. Because sometimes people do for work what they don't love, and then they have to spend all this extra money on the side for their hobbies and stuff. But I mean, you're a lucky person, a lucky man that could do that, does indeed. Something that he loves for as a job. How can I? Obviously, you fell in love with it at a young age and exposed yourself to others. And we actually have a guest in here that's also looking to kind of get into something aviation. What would you recommend somebody?
So if you think you want to, like, the very first advice, if anybody even like wants to try it out, see. Because, there's people that think they'll enjoy it, but then, they get into their first flight and they're like, they get sick or they freak out and they don't want to, pursue it. So what's called a discovery flight, most flight schools offer this. And so you just go in, essentially ask for a discovery flight. It's about 30 minutes to an hour. They talk about like kind of the aviation, how you get started and stuff, and then you go up for this flight, and like if you think you enjoy, most people that like aviation will fall in love with it. There's some that will just be like, no, this is not for me. So definitely just go out to your local airport. Most of them has a flight school, whether good or not, but just ask for a discovery flight, and that's how you get started. I mean,
that's how you discover.
Yeah, you literally discover whether it's for you or not. But I think like majority of my friends are also pilots.
Yeah.
So I think
like the ones that you grew up with, or now you're your newfound friends.
Well, because I started flying when I was 16. In school, in mechanics school.
Okay.
All these people I grew up with, I've known these people for 10 years or more, or 5 or more years, and most of them had that aviation bug. So like they knew they wanted to do this.
Okay.
So like the one advice I would try to stay away is like, don't go into aviation if you're pursuing money. I mean, be a doctor or something. But in the beginning, especially if you go to even airlines, there's not a lot of money for the first, I would say, 5 to 10 years to be made in aviation. I mean,
you're just a mechanic, probably start up cleaning the shop.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the average mechanic's wage in California is, but it's probably 25 to 30. I mean, like
you're better off flipping. Chick-fil-A pays $18.
Yeah,
now, so.
with no experience, you just got to go to church or so. I mean, but I mean, there's if you pursue like the business avenue of aviation, if you go to Embry-Riddle, they have business management, maintenance management, all these different specialty routes. There's money to be made. It's just very unique, and the market is super small, and so the competitiveness is very high. So
yeah. And then also when you're probably getting into like management, then it's not really it is an aviation career.
Yeah.
But it's more of like a business management type of career.
Yeah.
Well, then you can get any kind of business degree and go there.
Exactly. So, as for me, having a business, in the last, let's say, year, I've been like pushing some of like my work, pilot work. I try to minimize my flying and push it off to other essentially pilots that fly for me. And back when I just started, I'd fly every single flight. I'd fly every day. Now I probably do 150 hours a month. I used to do about 250 hours a month just in flight hours.
Oh wow,
it'd be a lot. And so
what's your total now?
I had just north of 3,000 hours. So
like from
day one to now.
Day one. Yeah. 3,000 hours?
Yeah. I think that's probably about like 6 months in the air cumulatively.
That's pretty crazy.
Well, that's like, some pilots that fly for me have 10,000. Andy Bieber, who owns this adventure flight here, he has like 30,000 hours, but he was Alaska bush pilot who flew from sunrise to sunset. They don't have roads in Alaska, so he flew essentially
everywhere he wanted to go.
Yeah. So to get milk, he had to fly. So
yeah,
I guess if I pursued my pilot career and didn't go into mechanic when I was 16 and started flying since I was 16, I guess professionally,
you'd accumulate more hours.
Yeah, I think I'd probably be about 2,000 hours further and where I am now. But at this point, it's certainly not about hours. I enjoy where I am now. I don't see myself progressing in like to the airlines. Like I could have, the airline rule 1,500 hours. If I wanted to go that route, that's where I would be. A couple of years ago. But I just, like what I think of airline pilots, glorified bus drivers. And so I just don't want to be that guy. So
no disrespect.
Yeah.
But that makes sense.
Yeah. They go into like LaGuardia to Dallas and then Dallas to Seattle, and they fly for, 3 days a week, or, the senior guys, they fly 3 days a month. Like if I were to come into the airlines as a senior guy and have like a lot of seniority, be a captain, yeah, I'd do it. But in order to depends what airline you fly, major or regional, plus what airplane you get into. It's tough for the first 10 years. I mean, I just don't see that kind of lifestyle personally, but
Yeah,
it's for
yeah.
some people. I have some friends who fly for JetBlue and Alaska Airlines.
Oh, okay.
They enjoy it, and
I mean, at least that's what they tell you.
yeah, exactly. So until they have to eat at the airport terminal.
You did do some flying outside of the country,
Yeah.
or something. There's some things you can't talk about. Is there anything you can or share something interesting from your experience?
So there was a time when I left my mechanic job here in Sacramento. I worked as a contractor overseas for essentially a U.S. agency for 2 years. We worked on and flew King Air 350s, and that was all surveillance. Essentially, they were doing surveillance of whatever's going on in the Middle East, war-related terrorist stuff. Back when now we think ISIS is gone, but when I was there, ISIS was still super active, and so that's what we pursued. It's if somebody's thinking about this overseas gig, it's not for everybody. You're gone so much of the year. I was gone months at a time. The hardest part about it is getting the top secret clearance. Depending on what level you get this clearance, 3 different tiers. I had the top secret clearance, and so it took me about 1.5 years to actually get this clearance. They do all these crazy investigations. They talk to your neighbors, just like pretty standard, I guess, whether you want to be an FBI agent or even a police officer. Yeah, so pretty typical. And once you pass that, so that alone needs to get sponsored by an employer or a government agency.
Oh, just to get into
this contracting stuff. So like,
okay.
Even if you don't have a job, you need that clearance in order to even apply for a job. A lot of companies or whoever will sponsor you, but you have to have like essentially a relationship.
What is the benefit for the company? Just they're interested in your future.
So the benefit is that they gain you as an employee, and they think you're going to be with them for a year because this, depending what tier, it could last up to 10 years. So I got in not because I applied, but because I knew somebody. And so they thought I was going to be essentially with them for many years. And in a way, I was planning on it. It just didn't work out in the end what I thought it would be.
Okay.
It's just not the lifestyle for me. It's for many people, but not for me. So
that's pretty cool.
It's harsh conditions, depending where you go to. I mean, you can get a contracting gig out in South Korea right now. It's nice. You live in a 5-star hotel. And, so for like, 2 months I lived in Dubai in a 5-star hotel essentially.
I mean, so 5-star in Dubai is like a diamond something.
Yeah, I mean, if you like, I was probably like 2 blocks away from Burj Khalifa. And I couldn't get a visa to go into Iraq. Okay. And so they held me nearby. So you got to do all this like blood stuff, all medical stuff to get cleared. During when I was trying to get my visa, there was a conflict between the Kurdish and Iraqi people, and so they shut down all the borders. There was people stuck in Iraq trying to come out, and me trying to get in. Eventually, I got in. The military came with, I think it was a C-130 at night, picked me up and flew me into the base where I essentially was based, and then that's how they got people out. Until the tensions opened up and the borders started opened up and airlines started flying again. So
that's pretty crazy. So somebody looking into contracting and they don't know anybody, but that's something super entertaining to them.
I think most people go that route is for the money. I mean, it's a lot of money to be made, and everything's paid for. Your hotels, your expenses, travel, everything's paid for. So most people, even though they're going to be as a pilot or a mechanic, they go there for the money. They don't necessarily go there for the lifestyle. I mean, I spent, I think, August in Iraq. It was 130 degrees for a week, and most of the time
130 degrees.
130 degrees, Fahrenheit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you get used to it quick, and so.
I mean, either you get used to it or you die. So.
Yeah, but but then when it's like 90, you're like, whoa, I need a jacket. It's cold because you're so used to 130. So it's actually true. And
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, that is a 40-degree difference.
Yeah, and then it's like, majority of the time I was there were in the summers, and so it's almost always over 100 in the winter. And at night it would get super cold, so you need shorts. Well, a lot of times you don't wear shorts or short sleeves because you get sunburned. So you actually wear like ventilator or breathing clothes, long sleeve, even neck covering, and
pretty much like a jumpsuit.
yeah, essentially. And then and at night gets down to about 70, 60. It's a very major difference, and you need a jacket essentially, or at least a sweater.
Yeah. So if somebody's looking into, are there websites? Where do people find that type of work? Where do they go?
So like JS Firm, that's essentially how the position I seeked. It was on JS Firm. I just knew a guy who was a manager, or still is a manager, with essentially the company that gave out this contract. And so even though I was going to apply on this link or whatever from JS Firm, I made contact with it's a guy who I worked when I started my mechanic career, who worked with us, and then he got into it, and so I kind of held some relationship with him, and he helped me get in. And so but it's, if you have the experience, especially if you have like the type of aircraft they fly, if you have that experience, it's relatively easy to get in. I mean,
it's actually my next question. What kind of experience are contractors looking for?
Most of them just specific aircraft experience. Most places require at least a 2-year college degree, or most require a 4-year degree. And then again, the type of aircraft they fly, that experience, and then all the certification, whether for pilot or mechanic, they at least want an A&P, which is an airframe power plant. I'd say 40% of the companies want an IA, which is inspector authorization. It's just the next certification above, I guess, and A&P gives you a little more authority to sign off different, I guess, or major repairs. And
okay, so you're a pilot or a mechanic, but also they can use you as somebody that can do more than just one task.
Yeah. So again, depending on what company you work for, there's probably, that I'm aware of, 3 companies that are at least in the Middle East and in Africa that do the surveillance stuff. And the company I worked for preferred to have an A&P plus all your pilot ratings, so you could fly. What we did was King Air 350. So
okay, that's a pretty crazy story.
Yeah.
Just and you're only 27, so honestly, it's very exciting to see where the next 27 for you are gonna be. And I appreciate that. I only wish the best for Max Air LLC, and I'm sure that's going to expand. And from what I've heard about you from others, is Max was a money-making machine for his companies that he worked for.
Yeah, well, thank you.
He was just one of the best people that somebody wants to work for. The best pilot, obviously, like you said, testament to yourself. Yeah,
that's a lot.
And so it's a good thing. So if I don't know why, but if you're a CEO out there with a bunch of money looking for a professional, this is one right here.
Oh, thank you.
Again, I want to thank you for your time. Yeah. And
happy to hear it.
We're going to stop here.
Okay.
And we will come back. There'll be another clip we're going to release for you guys with questions specifically from YouTube and different questions you guys asked, that if Max has the experience, obviously you can share that with us.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And
thanks for having me.
We're actually, while whoever's watching, we're planning to have another airplane mechanic. He actually just reached out to me today and so if you guys have more questions to specifically mechanics, and send them in, put them in the comments below, or whatever you guys got to do. Thank you.